President Carter was the biggest limp-wristed pussy of a president I think we've ever had, next to Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. To be honest. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Yeah. I agree with you.
But that is why we had the hostage crisis, and Carter did not do anything to get our people back. 66 U.S. ambassador, U.S. embassy folks. That's when the movie Argo came out. That was what that was all about. And we had to go through Canada. Canada had to pull this quote unquote fake movie that they were filming to rescue our people. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Canucks. We appreciate that, by the way. Because Carter did not have the balls to go get us. You know, when you allow people to do stuff, guess what? They're going to do it. They're going to keep doing the stuff you don't want them to do. You know, I mean, it's just. Anyway, so there's a lot more about Khomeini and his rise. I think we're getting the idea here. We really wanted to go through the history of this so that everybody understands, because you're not getting that with most of these podcasts.
Yeah,
you see out there, and I hope we're bringing you something new that you're watching. We entertain you a little bit as well on it, but that you see, hey, you know, this is not just cut and dry. This is not just, you know, Israel, you know, defending itself or pissed off with Iran and Iraq. This goes back a ways, and this comes back to oil and religion. And religion is the reason Iran is trying to annihilate Israel and the Jews so that they can fulfill their prophecy, their Islamic prophecy. You know, just sick idea that they have, an ideal. It's just disgusting, to be honest with you, if you really look at it. And what if you were one of those people? What if you're Jewish? You know, I'm part Jewish. There's a lot of people who are part Jewish in this country. Yeah. If you ever did your little DNA tests, you'll probably find you have a little bit of Jew in you. Yeah, Jews, in you, and you know, and it depends. So, you know, don't be so quick to, you know, talk down to the Jewish people because you think that they're evil and everything. So now that we've attacked the nuclear facilities, the three main nuclear facilities, we're a little worried about what was Iran going to do. And we've kind of seen a little bit, and we're going to end on kind of the latest stuff that I found today, because we were going to do this last night, but stuff happened that we couldn't get to it. So we're doing it tonight, kind of a day later, but kind of give us a little extra day to disseminate a few more things and get kind of some of the latest things. So here's a broadcast. This is Sky News Australia talking about what happens now. What will the Iranian regime do, or the Islamic regime do with this whole thing? And let's see what they talk about here real quick. And then we're going to get into a couple more things talking about how you cannot negotiate and why you can't negotiate with this regime.
The attack will have everlasting consequences. The US president is calling on Iran to get back to the negotiating table, but Tehran says it reserves all rights to retaliate. Dominic Waghorn explains now on how Iran could strike back.
President Trump has plunged the US into this war with probably the most extreme option he had available. So what happens next, and how likely is this conflict to expand further? Iran is almost certain to retaliate. Not doing so would make it look even weaker. So what could it target? The US has military bases throughout the Middle East, Qatar, Kuwait, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. Killing Americans might be a priority for Iran to try and drive a wedge between Trump and his MAGA supporters back home, who say America is getting drawn into yet another Middle Eastern war, risking US lives. Iran could attack Americans directly with drones and missiles, or use proxies in the Middle East.
Now, one of the latest things is Iran did shoot missiles into our military base in, was it Qatar or Oman? One of the two, I can't remember what it was.
I think it was Qatar.
Yeah, it was Qatar. So they have kind of, done this a little bit.
Yeah, they did the counter strike.
Yeah, I mean, and it's understandable. We knew they were going to do that. They had to do that. They couldn't look weak. So they had to do that for sure.
Hezbollah in Lebanon has been massively degraded by Israel. More likely, Iran would use militias it backs in Iraq, or the Houthis based in Yemen, whose truce with the US appears to be in tatters. All that would invite massive retaliation, of course, from America, so Iran might prefer asymmetrical options. In that case, Britain could also be a target. Could all this lead to terror attacks in the UK? In the region, there are two stretches
And
of
there
water
was
to
in
worry
London.
about. Both
They did have an attack in London. I saw a report of that. Yeah. They had some Iranians in London, I think, or somebody. It was some group. It might have been sympathizers to like the Houthis or some group like that, or the Iranian faction of some sort. Did do some sort of attack in London. I don't have that, but I did see that. So yeah, they're gonna fight back against us and our allies as well a little bit. But like he's saying, how far are they willing to really go? Because they know they'll get annihilated.
Well, and I think that was kind of the thing too, because I mean, they've thrown out empty threats for years. You know what I mean? And so with us, I think it's just kind of like, well, you're not gonna get anywhere with that, and you're not gonna get anywhere by trying to start a war with us. So all they can really do is these kind of small attacks on these small bases that we can clear out within a few hours.
Right.
And I think that's the only thing they can do. It's kind of what they have to do. But I don't their bark is definitely bigger than their bite. And because you're right, because I think they know they will just be completely wiped out within 24 to 48 hours. You know what I mean?
I mean, if we really did that, yeah.
Yeah, if we really, really wanted to come in and wipe them out, I think it would be a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. Now, and I've heard reports too that Iran has built up arsenals for many, many years, and so they have tens of thousands of certain types of missiles and bombs, and then they have hundreds of thousands of the smaller kind that they can launch from shorter ranges and things like that. So they apparently, from what I understand, have capability to still start chucking their missiles over to Israel, and they have been. And now they have supposedly have this ceasefire sort of thing kind of going on. But anyway, let's listen to a little bit more of some of the possibilities that they could do. And really, the possibilities are endless, because I think there's probably a bunch of sleeper cells around the world, and especially here in the U.S., because our last illustrious president has allowed open borders and allowed tens of thousands of people a day to pour into our, and we have no idea who these people are, because they're not just from Mexico and Latin America. They're from China. They're from Middle East. They're from all over the world who have been allowed to come in here. And I guarantee we have a lot of Iranian and other Islamic sympathizing organizations that have moved into our country illegally, have made different places all around our country. Every state probably has a bunch of these sleeper cells.
Well, and I think
not to freak people out, but it's a possibility.
That was my biggest concern. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially where we live. You know what I mean? We have a very active and a very large Air Force base.
Yep.
So you look at that and it's like, okay, what does that mean for us? And I don't know. We're not getting a lot of those answers from our leadership.
No.
So that kind of scares me a little bit. And those sleeper cells are like, they're extremists, and they will strap bombs to themselves and do that kind of stuff. So
remember what they're promised in the afterlife for that.
Oh yeah. Like 70 virgins or something like that.
Something like that.
And so, I guess that was my real kind of fear in them retaliating in that kind of way on our soil.
Right.
Yeah,
and we'll have a guest on, and we'll probably do another follow-up on this to see how things are going. But he's in counterintelligence, and he was on a phone call last night and was telling me all about it. Not about the phone call, because I haven't talked to him since he's had the call, but was really talking about a lot of things that were kind of going on, and I'm hoping that he can come on with us and share some insight of what he actually can say to us about the phone call and some of the information he's able to put out to us, if possible. I hope something without compromising the people he was with or the phone call itself and everything else. But so we'll have him on hopefully and get a little more insight and do another follow-up on this. But yeah, I mean, he's just he's, you know, it's like, hey, this could possibly happen. You might want to stock up on certain things just in case. I'm not saying anything's going to happen, and knock on wood, you know, things haven't happened in the past when there's been, you know, things like this that have gone on where we should have. So we're just saying, panic. We don't know anything going on, but the potential could possibly be there for something. Just be prepared. Keep your head on the swivel, as they say, and kind of keep an eye out. And anything that looks suspicious, you know, you might want to report it.
Yeah.
You know,
Listen to your gut.
But don't just willy-nilly report. They make sure it's something like, well, okay, is that just somebody doing something weird, or is that really something suspicious? Again, use your head. Don't be stupid about it. Let's, you know, use your head and think about it real quick. Let's listen a little bit more about some of these, and then we'll get into some more real quick, because we've got more to get into, and we're going along on this. So let's move on.
Strategically vital. The Houthis could threaten shipping in the Red Sea, while Iran could directly target vessels in the Persian Gulf, as they've done before, harassing ships with smaller boats, firing rockets at them and seizing them. Now, if the Gulf goes up in flames, expect a big hit to the global economy and the price of oil too. The Iranians have threatened to shut off the Strait of Hormuz.
That's what I'm a little more nervous about, is just that, and then all of a sudden, cost of everything goes out the window, you know, and it's like, oh my God, now gas is back at freaking Joe Biden prices.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
then the cost of eggs goes up to $8 a dozen again, or whatever. Yeah, that's kind of more what I'm worried about.
Yeah, and they're reporting that all over the place. You know, Trump's war now, and I'm
Trump's
like,
war.
economy's gonna bust now because of Trump's war. We're all gonna, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You know what I mean?
Okay,
I mean,
check a little.
and normally it goes up a little bit in the summer anyway. You know, oil and gas. But at the same time, yes, this is gonna affect stuff quite a bit. You know, quite a bit further than, you know, a normal summer hike. So that is something that I'm not super excited about.
Yeah, and going back to the whole Trump's war thing, is like, okay, you Trump derangement syndrome morons need to understand something. This is not Trump's war per se. This is all of our war.
Well, and that's how they're touting it. You know what I mean?
Right,
I mean, it's hard because
it's under Trump's watch.
Well, they're like, it's Scripps News, basically. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, it's like Trump's tariffs. And then now they're like, well, I guess it's not really as bad as we thought. What else can we sink our teeth into and blame on Trump? Oh, Trump's war. And I'm like, and then you got the newscasters, like people that like I really like to watch, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're reporting this stuff completely inaccurate. You know what I mean?
Well, because they're told to report it a certain way, most likely.
Exactly. They're using a script, you know what I mean, that everybody's using. Trump's war. And then, you know, you're falsely leading these people into more Trump derangement syndrome, or, you know, or shit like that. Like, I was having a conversation with my uncle last week, you know, and he's sitting there just shitbagging everything Trump. And I'm like, wait a minute. If all you're listening to is CNN or local news, you're not getting the full story.
Right.
You know what I mean? What you said about this, it's actually, this is how that went. This is how that went. And this is how that went. So you really got to look at the big picture and get all the information before you just start shitbagging because you've been listening to CNN. You know, I mean, come on.
It's like, have you ever heard, you know, get the story from both sides and then figure out there's truth here. The actual truth is somewhere right back there. Yeah. And, you know, it's always, you know, anytime it's, you know, Trump's this, Trump's that, when it's something bad. Well, whatever happened to, well, it was Biden's border. It was Biden's economy. It was Biden's. You people never blamed him. You always went back that it was, you know, it was residual from Trump. in his first term and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's stop playing that bullshit game. Okay, because here's the thing: you've got this Iran and Israel that have been fighting back and forth, throwing punches, throwing blows back and forth. And then periodically, you remember the Iranians took the American servicemen hostage on their boat, that small boat that they had, I think it was, or something like that, a few years ago. And it's like, okay, so you have this little guy punching us in the face, and if we don't do anything, that little guy's going to keep punching us in the face, and then they're going to start hitting harder and do whatever they can, unless we come back with a swift bang right across their face and knock them the shit down. Then maybe they're like, oh shit, you fought back. Okay, better. This is what we just did.
Mm-hmm.
We threw a right hook, and just took out their freaking nasal cavity and put them on the ground. Said, stop this bullshit with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't affect just Israel. It's going to affect the world, and we can't allow you to get that gun as the little scrawny guy, and get a distinct advantage or whatever. It says you can't have, you're not capable. You are a serial killer who does not get to have weapons.
Exactly.
Because you want to annihilate a whole race of people.
Yeah.
Hitler.
It's not happening.
Islamic Hitler.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jeez, so let's a little bit more on this real quick.
This choke point through which a third of the world's seaborne oil passes. All this would send shockwaves through the world's financial markets.
Shockwave.
The US has massively increased its presence to retaliate to any retaliation, with no less than 3 aircraft carrier battle groups in the region. As things stand, this is almost certain to escalate, but could it also widen and suck other nations into the
other
conflict?
thing?
Russia and Iran have a strategic partnership agreement, but it doesn't require Moscow to come to Iran's support. Iran is also China's closest ally in the Middle East, but Beijing is also likely to sit this one out, its thoughts, and watch from the sidelines. The priority for Iran's leadership is to survive, to fight another day, and redouble efforts eventually to build the bomb. If Israel can't change the regime in Iran, which isn't easy, it'll have to manage the Iranian threat and cut it down to size from time to time. That could mean years more military action and could be hugely costly for both Israel and its American backers. So Iran is in a very tight spot, but the future could be challenging for both Israel and America too.
Well, Iran has...
Okay. So maybe that goes back to what Bibi Netanyahu has been saying over and over and over again. Well, Iran is 2 months from getting nuclear weaponry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe that wasn't, because he just said over and over again they're going to do. So it makes sense. So, even though Megan brought it up, she brought up a good point. It makes you question, okay, really what's going on? Or is that more of what it is? They keep getting back up and they keep doing their little thing and, starting to throw punches again and stuff like that. So one of the other videos talked with Chris Cuomo, talked about how Iran has planted terrorist sleeper cells inside the U.S. Possibly, maybe. Is that possibly what's happening? And I think that yes, it could be that as well. As I go through these, because I don't want to play every single one of these, because we could be here for, like I said, 3, 4, 5 hours at a time doing this. But I do want to play a couple of these to let people understand. Stop freaking backing this regime in Iran, because you have no idea who these people are and what they are capable of doing. They're Hitler Islamists, okay? They're Islamic Hitler. And this gal, and I think the next video I'm going to show, because I do want to show these, talks about this, but this gal lost her dad, and this is part of the regime and what they do here. And it's sick. So let's listen to this.
Giselle joins me now. Thank you so much for being here. I imagine yesterday on Father's Day, the first Father's Day you've had without your dad, must have been a difficult one. We'll talk about the Iranian people rising up in a second, but I just want to talk about your father's story. He didn't live or even travel to Iran. He was abducted while in Dubai, imprisoned for 4 years, then a sham trial. Why him? Why was he targeted?
Thank you for asking that, and thank you for having me today. My father, and I have to correct that, he was not an Iranian citizen. He was actually growing up in Germany and for the last 2 or 3 decades living in America. And from here, he was using his trade, which was being a software engineer, to create a website for the people of Iran where they could communicate with the outside world. they could talk about the grievances. They could show that this regime that is inside of Iran is not Iranian, and it's actually an occupation by the nation of Iran. So this exposure was a big thorn in the eyes of the Islamic regime that tries to pose for the last 46 years as a legitimate government, as the leadership of Iran. Though they were not elected, they're not Iranian. They don't have Iran's interest in mind. They are a foreign occupation. That's what I wrote in my tweet. And they're exploiting the territory and the resources of the Iranian people to terrorize them and the region and America. So when my father was here in America, they tried to assassinate him in 2009. And when he had a flight overlay in Dubai, they kidnapped him, took him over there. And 1 week before the last election, before President Trump was elected, they murdered my father and mutilated his body. And we're still trying to get my father back to California to give him his peace.
Did you hear what they did to this guy?
No.
Yeah, I mean, they murdered him because he was trying to create an app, a communication app that the Iranian people can use.
Right. I thought you meant just the extent of.
Well, yeah, that was my next point. Yeah, they mutilated him. They didn't just kill him. They mutilated him, cut up his body. Who knows what they did exactly? Because she doesn't really say. I don't believe.
Even have his.
But it's like, this is the type of people you're dealing with. It's not one thing just to put a bullet in your head.
Yeah.
You know, and it goes much further than that. So let's listen a little bit more.
His remains yet?
His remains are stuck right now in Berlin. As I said, he's German-American, but the rest of the journey in bringing him here would be with the help of our administration, which is right now very busy with negotiations with the tyrants of Iran. So for some reason, we have not reached any response from our administration if they're going to bring
negotiations with these
tortured
people
and murdered hostage back home. I mean, my father could have been saved in 2023 when we had a hostage deal with the Islamic regime. He was left behind.
So your dad was targeted for simply allowing Iranians to communicate with each other outside of the regime's watchful, spying eye. And that was such a threat, they killed.
Wouldn't that be a great way to live? Oh, that's right. What's kind of going on right now in the world.
Well, and it's like she said, they weren't voted in.
No.
They just took control, you know?
Yeah. They took over, exactly. And if you oppose them, they put you on trial. They tried to assassinate you. I'm sorry, that was Trump. Never mind. My apologies. I got this.
Sounds familiar.
That's mixed up a little bit, but same story. Deja vu all over again. So here's some more.
Told him over it. Can you imagine now? I mean, now we have Israeli leaders openly calling, saying, Iranians, now is the time, rise up. What are the chances that will happen, that could happen?
If we look at history and the last 46 years, as I said, this regime is not Iranian. Ayatollah Khomeini was schooled in Iraq by Arab Islamists. He came with the words to Iran that he will let Iran burn to light the flight of Islam everywhere. So this regime came to destroy Iranians. That's why they're killing Iranians on a regular basis. So since day one, the Iranians have been uprising.
Are you starting to get it, people? This is why I pray for the Iranian people. It's these people, this Islamic regime are horribly horrific people who don't deserve to live in this world.
Yeah, no, they don't.
You know, I mean, it's just.
So I have no doubt that they will use every situation, every momentum to rise against their oppressors. The only problem is, looking back at 2009, at 2023, their uprising has not been just crushed by the regime. It has always been crushed when our Western governments decided to throw a lifeline to the Ayatollahs, be it a nuclear deal, be it a hostage deal. Any kind of deal with these Islamists means money in the pockets of these Islamists. So the question is not, will the people of Iran rise? Will Israel protect them? I'm sure of both of that. The question is, what will our administration do? Will they continue to say that they want to negotiate with the people that scream death to America and want to assassinate us? Or will they right now reach out to the people of Iran and say, we have your back, no more deals with your oppressors?
We just, and you know, it is not easy to
And wouldn't that be great if we can actually do that? But is that in our best interest? That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a question for me to answer. I mean, I would hope it's in our best interest to help the people, because, like, my God, you just listen to some of the stories, but she's right. It's like you've got these people that are chanting "Death to America." Yeah, let's negotiate with them. let's try to negotiate with people like that. I mean, it is just unbelievable. So let me kind of cue this one up to this spot here. This is another video. This is the gal I was telling you about earlier. She is an Iranian, an attorney who's, I think, living in Britain right now. But she also shares a very similar sentiment to this last gal about the regime and things like that. And this is quite interesting. So I'm going to play a little bit of this so you can kind of get an idea, and then we'll wrap this up because we've probably gone on long enough with this, and I'm getting ready to wrap this up for everybody so you can enjoy the rest of your evening or your day whenever you're watching this. So let's check this out real quick here and see what she has to say, because this is fascinating. This Elika Lebon. So check this out here.
GC and all those interesting details that some of us may not know. Let's take a look.
Iran is very far away from Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their objective and their desire to wipe Israel off the map, which is one of their objectives, seems to a lot of people kind of difficult to understand. Can you talk a little bit about
we can
that?
talk about that. So basically, Iran, there's two types of Islam. There's Shia Islam and Sunni Islam. The regime in Iran subscribes to 12 Shia Islam. So the reason it's called 12 Shia Islam is because they believe that the descendants of the original prophet Muhammad is not the correct lineage of the prophets. It's of his son-in-law and cousin. So the 12th,
Isn't that interesting?
the 12th Imam, which was Prophet Mahdi. So there's this theory called Mahdiism. This Prophet Mahdi was said to have gone into occultation. So he went into hiding around 937 CE. So he's gone into hiding, he's gone into occultation. And the theory is that the final prophet emerges once there is once justice and equality has been achieved in the world. And the thing that achieves this justice is that the last drop of blood of Israel falls. So the end of Israel brings back the final prophet.
Oh, I've never heard this. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's a religious thing. It's a prophecy.
It is. Yeah.
It has always been a religious thing. Always.
See? This is what I think a lot of people don't get. It's mostly a religious thing. And then it's also partially an oil thing that kind of got us to this point. But deep down, underneath all of it, it's a religious thing. People need to understand that.
So they need to destroy Israel.
They need to destroy Israel, correct. So that's why,
for the prophecy to be fulfilled.
Exactly. So that's why, that's now how you get into the proxies of the regime, right? So you have the regime almost immediately after the regime comes into power so it comes into power in 1979. Within the next 2 years, between that 1981, they create Hezbollah. So Hezbollah is essentially a second IRGC, which was created for the purpose of destroying Israel from the closest possible border. Because as you said, Iran's not close enough to Israel to be able to accomplish that.
Remember, when you're seeing tweets by the Iranian IRGC, they said, we did not start this. But of course you did, because Hezbollah is Iran, Hamas is Iran, the Houthis is Iran. So of course you started this. You started this on October 7th, and now we're finishing it.
So they were like, okay, let's take Lebanon.
Well, when he says you started this on October 7th, he's just talking about this particular conflict. Because the overall, this battle, I guess, the whole war has been going on for 1,000 years.
Yeah, I was going to say 1,000 years.
More, whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Lebanon. Let's put an army of the IRGC in Lebanon, which is
what is the IRGC? Sorry,
the Islamic Revolutionary Guardian Corps.
Okay.
So this is okay. So the system in Iran.
This is why I want to play this video. This is very historical. She's got some excellent information about this that I don't think very many people get, and you're not getting it on all these other podcasts. I don't think very many people are not digging in like we are right here. So I hope you're beginning to understand this a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, we're watching it right now with you. I watched a little bit before, and I'm kind of gathering it. Definitely not an expert on this whole thing, but I'm getting a much better understanding. That's for damn sure. And I hope you are as well. Please comment below if you're understanding this or if there's anything you can add to this. We'd love to hear in the comments, but what your thoughts are as well.
It's like this. You have a regular government, which is, for all intents and purposes, just symbolic because it's under the so you have the supreme leader. The system is called Velayat Faqih. You have the supreme leader, and underneath the supreme leader, you have the IRGC, which protects the supreme leader. And then you have the regular government, which is parliament, judiciary, and executive, president. But all of these are under the rule of the supreme leader. So the IRGC essentially protects this system of Velayat Faqih, the supreme leader system. So the second IRGC is created in Lebanon, which is Hezbollah. So after the revolution is successful, Assad comes to Iran to congratulate Khomeini and says, "What do you need?" And Khomeini says, "We need a passage to Lebanon to create this second army to destroy Israel." So they go through Syria, and they come down in northern Lebanon. At the same time, this is like around the same time that, remember, Israel's now in southern Lebanon. And this is why the Western world often says that Hezbollah was created in response to Israel's occupation. Well, that's completely false. First of all, Israel was occupying the south of Lebanon at the time to remove the PLO that were throwing rockets into Israel. And in fact, the Lebanese in the south were actually allying with Israel to help take out the PLO, the SLA. Hezbollah's coming down in the north, and it's basically killing everybody who's not submitting to their rule. Even Shiites, even Shiite Muslims, Sunnis, Christians, basically everyone. They start engaging in a series of terrorist attacks, bombing the American embassy in Beirut, kidnapping Americans, killing them.
Y'all remember that?
Then it goes into like the kind of Iran-Contra affair, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Anyway, the whole point is that this regime creates its proxies in order to start satisfying its goal, which is the destruction of Israel. And that's how it ends up also funding and providing training and assistance to Hamas and the Houthis, basically one in furtherance of the same goal.
And it goes on. But I hope that gives everybody a little bit better idea of this is, the whole thing. This is why the current occupiers of the leadership in Iran, who are not technically Iranian, as she was mentioning, should be out of power or out of a position where they have the ability to do what they're doing. If nothing else, and this is why I say I'm sorry if you don't agree with what Trump did by dropping the bombs on their nuclear facilities. When you understand this, you see how this all had to kind of occur and how this has to happen. We've got to get these people out of power. And I don't care. Trump wasn't supposed to start a new war and all that. Well, he didn't. He didn't start this war.
Yeah, no.
They started this battle on October 7th. It started 1,000 years ago. They want the annihilation of Israel until the last drop of Jewish blood is there. Their prophecy will finally be fulfilled. Do you not understand how deep this runs with them? And you can't negotiate with these people at all.
Yeah, and I think that, that's really kind of the thing to realize is that, if you are against it, that, there's no negotiation, and the only way to really stop, them from going any further at this point is, like you said, is to throw that left hook. You know what I mean? Yeah. Surprise them by doing that and saying, "Hey, no, the world does not agree with this shit, so you need to stop."
Yeah, and if you don't stand up, if you don't spank the child, they're going to continue their bad behavior, their tantrums, and they're trying to get their way. And their way is to get rid of the Jewish nation state and the drops of blood of Jews. Which means if you have any Jewish blood in you, you're a target to them.
Well, that's kind of the thing, though, too. It's like that almost makes you a supporter of annihilating the Jews. Right. You know what I mean?
What? Yeah, you're just as bad as these people. These animals. They aren't even people. You can't categorize these people as human beings and as people, because no person in their right mind, with who has any morality or any consciousness at all, sympathy to fellow man at all, would ever have a thought. I mean, it's one thing having a thought of killing somebody because maybe they're attacking your child, and like, they're not going to live long if they do that, But when you want to annihilate a whole race and a whole bloodline of people in the world, which is billions, there's probably billions of people, a couple billion people that probably have lineage with Jewish blood in them. That's a horrific ideology to have.
Yeah, it really is, and it is on the verge of psychosis. You know what I mean? Because it is so radicalized, with them and their religion, that they have blinders. You know what I mean? Yeah. You cannot reason with them. You cannot change their mind about that. It's just horrific.
Well, and they will lie, they will cheat, they will steal, they will do what they have to do. So you got to really put these people out. So the question now then is, we have to get these people out. How do we do it, or how does it happen? I don't think we should have any part of that. I think it needs to be the Iranian people themselves that need to make this decision, but they need to be able to make this decision.
Yeah,
and not be oppressed or suppressed.
Yeah, they need to have some sort of, empowerment to make this decision and to get back to, a democracy, and just get these people out, especially because they're not even Iranian.
Right. And here's the thing, if the vast majority of the people vote to keep this group in power, you get what you deserve.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't understand how you could. Well, okay, I do understand, when it comes down to, the religious extremists. However, I don't know how all the rest of the people can't, what I mean, can't really understand, what's happening if they don't do anything, if they don't take any action,
Well, and that's where I've seen things with the Iranian people themselves, is that if they had the ability to speak out without fear of retribution or death for speaking their mind, right, that they would sit there, they would vote these people out. They would say, GTFO, get the fuck out of our country, because we don't want you here anymore. So that's what I'm hoping. So I touched on this before, but we have a possibility of somebody who could come in and maybe help put the Iranians back on track to reclaiming their nation and their history and their livelihood and everything else, and get back to the freedom that they used to enjoy. And this happens to be the son of the Shah of Iran, the one who was exiled back in 1979 when Khomeini came back. But he seems to have a little more reason to what he's trying to do, and he's trying to say, look, I don't want to be the one in power. I don't want this. I want the people of Iran to choose their fate, and kind of choose their destiny. And I don't necessarily want to be it. I don't really want to be it, but somebody's got to come in. And who is it? Who is it that comes in and takes Iran back and gives it back to the people and allows this country to be prosperous, these people to be free, and everything else? I don't know who it is, but this is the one prominent person I've seen who might be able to do it. And here's him talking about what he is hoping to be able to do. And we'll play that right now.
I think the mood in Iran today is, this is the last time we get such a chance, and we cannot afford to let it die. The legitimacy of the entire system is at place, and anyone that still in any form or shape could be perceived as connected with the system is as illegitimate as Mr. Khomeini has become. Legitimacy today is in people's hands. Therefore, any legitimacy depends on those who line up with the people this time.
Okay? He's trying to line him up with the people. I mean, God bless him for at least trying, and I don't know if that will happen or not, and I sure hope. And I'm not saying him. I don't know enough about him. I don't know what his true goals and aspirations are, but he seems to be the only one that I've seen that might have a chance to actually bring this back to. Oops, sorry, let's get rid of that. He might be the only one at this point who might be able to bring freedom and everything back to the Iranian people that I can see right now. And he's not quite like his dad was. And there's a chance. So you're saying there's a chance? Yes.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So-
you know what I mean. Yeah, I mean, all we can do is, you know, I mean, if you a person that prays, then pray, you know what I mean, and that this all comes out, you know, the best it can, you know what I mean, and for those people, you know, mostly.
Well, you know, and hope rings eternal. That we hope that this will work out. I just hope that what Trump has done, you know, hitting back super hard from the punches that Israel has received, we've punched them back hard enough that they're like, oh shit, okay, you know, I know we want to annihilate the Jewish state, but maybe, you know, for us to do that at another day, we need to, you know, and that's what we hope. We hope they're thinking, oh, okay, we'll stop now. And then just bring it up 20 years later, 10 years later, 100 years later, they'll wait, you know?
Yeah.
They'll wait. They'll sit there and make everybody seem like, oh, no, yeah, we're good people. Hey, we've changed. We're totally different now. They're never going to freaking change, people. They're never, ever, ever going to change. So they need to be out of power because they do not want Israel to exist.
Yeah.
And the Jews and everything else we talk about. So one last thing here is the aftermath. This just kind of came out today, and we saw this where Trump had announced no official that there was announced that there was an official ceasefire. When Iran announces no official ceasefire, shocker. You think they're going to put that? Of course, they're going to put that up there. So Jackson Hinkle puts this out. He goes, breaking: Iran announces no official ceasefire, but agrees to withhold further attacks for now. That might also be called a ceasefire. Pending Israel does the same. A final decision on the cessation of military operations will be made later. Ceasefire. So a ceasefire. Yeah.
Well, I think that I don't think they want to call it a ceasefire because when they break it, which they're going to do,
of course
they don't. Yeah, they don't want to be held on the fire for that.
Yeah. No,
because that comes with terms and conditions, and it comes with paperwork, and yada. And they're not going to do that.
Yeah. You know, and it even shows, I mean, I'm just looking at another tweet here. I won't put it up on the screen, but it just says President Donald Trump says he's looking for a real end, not a ceasefire in the Middle East. A ceasefire is just merely buying a little more time, you know, so that shit will happen. You know, then so you always have your trolls talking about, oh, Trump said this, that, and the other, and it's actually not a ceasefire. You know, it's like, okay, buddy, give it time. Give it time. You expect everything that he does to happen immediately. And I'm not saying everything I don't necessarily agree with everything he's been doing, but you know what? Sometimes we have to hope. And it seems like at the moment that things are starting to work out the way he was hoping. Because he's looking on down the road. He's got people in place as well that are saying, okay, if we do this, here are the possibilities of what could happen. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, and another thing too, though, which I think, you know, you gotta take this into consideration, that maybe Trump's just trying to get them to back off for the next 3.5 years.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, to make himself look a little bit better, or you know, not have all this bullshit blamed on him for the next umpteen years. So there's a little bit of that.
Maybe he's saving his ass, covering his ass. Sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
possibility. Well, you know, and then you got, you know, I haven't heard anything from Xi, but Putin's out there, you know, coming flexing his muscles. Like, okay, calm down there, Twiddledee. You're still dealing with the fucking Ukrainian deal. So why don't you just cool your jets, buddy? But you know, like, we're badasses saying that we're involved in Ukraine as well. But anyway, but he, you know, he's flexing his muscles, saying this was, you know, unprovoked and groundless and blah blah blah. So okay, whatever. You know, you have to say that. You got to play nice because you know, with Iran, because you're their buddy in the Middle East, in Syria, I believe. You know, but whatever. You know, the bottom line is, I truly believe that Trump is trying to get a peaceful solution in the Middle East, and I believe he's trying. Whether you want to believe it or not, I think I hope I'm not wrong, and I could be, and I will admit if I am. But I hope he's really trying to help the Iranian people get their country back, their freedoms back, and live a life that they deserve to have. Because they had it pretty well. If when you see some of the historical stuff we showed, and you know how life is and was over there, that it can continue to be better and better, and get these assholes out of power so that they can truly live the life they want and be able to, you know, enjoy the freedoms they deserve as well. You know, so that's all we're hoping for.
Agreed.
You know, keep the trade routes open so we can all trade around the world and buy product from everywhere and everything else. So anyway, well, that should wrap this one up. We went a little long, but God, there was so much to talk about, and the history I thought was very important to let everyone know out there. I don't think you're getting that many other places. Hopefully this helped you understand a little bit more where things started and kind of came from, and it goes way back, thousands of years, a couple thousand years or whatever it is. But you know, hopefully you kind of understand a little bit more and realize oil is just a little part of it, but that was a fairly decent part of it in this last century. But the religious thing, that's the catalyst. That's the big kahuna in this whole equation. And that's the shit that you have to deal with, and you can't negotiate it, and you can't bargain with it, because there's no negotiating with people who are religious zealots and have this truly deep rooted faith that they need to destroy and kill every last Jew on earth for their prophecy to be fulfilled. That's a huge motivating factor for these people, and that's hard, and it's pretty much impossible. Yeah. So hopefully we can figure it out. Anyway, well, gang, thanks for joining us here on the Rude Barn podcast. We appreciate it. Please check out all our other videos that we have. We got a lot of fun stuff we talk about, and you'll see those in, you know, if you subscribe to our channel, please like, subscribe, and share this with people. So hopefully we have a good time having fun with everybody, and let you know what's going on. And check out the Etsy store we have, which is therudebarn.etsy.com. We have a lot of merch on there. We don't make a whole lot on it, but you know what, every little bit kind of helps you know, put the show on and be able to do this, which we love doing. Actually love it, even though we're not feeling 100%.
Yeah, my apologies.
We're still here because we just, you know, had this, and we had to talk about this, of course, because hello, you know, everybody's out there. And then don't forget our good buddies over at the Bearded Viking, beardedviking.com, the purveyors of the best mead products in the world. God damn it.
Yeah, we're getting there. That's for sure.
We're getting there.
Yeah, I hope you learned something today, gang, and sound off in the comments if you want to chat back and forth. We're not afraid of a conversation. And yeah, like we always say, question everything.
Question everything. Appreciate it all. Anyway, have a good one, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.